So,
going to take a bit to get in.
Morning, everybody. Well, what an interesting start to this TechCast. We'll just give it a minute as we see some participants coming in. But phew, I was just thinking, it's hilarious, actually. You've got some of the brain trust of analytics and tech people here, and we were all nearly flummoxed by technology itself. So anyway, yeah, welcome, everybody. We'll just give it a minute or two to let people come in, and then we'll start. You surviving, Philippe? You see, you did turn out to be the mystery guest.
Thank you, Roger. Thanks for inviting me, guys. It's always a pleasure and an excitement.
Yeah, well, there's no one quite like Firehose Philippe. So I was trying to actually think of different ways of introducing you all. I sort of got, I'm Radical Rog, Victorious Vlamis, Wacky Wayne, Firehose Philippe, and Cathye. You're a lady, so I just couldn't be rude to you, and I couldn't think of something on the spur of the moment. So you'll have to come up with something creative, Cathye. But anyway, that's
yeah. Well, let's stick at that one. If not, I could probably call my husband. He could probably think of a few.
Let's get cracking. So we've got some people coming in, and there's still a few more coming in. But really, just to introduce myself, Roger Cressey. I'm an associate director with Braventure. And I'm joined today by a gang of illustrious people, far more clever than I am. Dan Vlamis from Vlamis, Wayne van Sluys from Organo, and Philippe from Oracle Product Management, and Cathye, our customer on the forum today. And really, we're here to share about our favorite features of the new release in November of 23C. So next slide, please, sir. You'll find these helpful links. Our illustrious Carrie Dayton will have put them into the chat for you, I think. If she hasn't, she will be. These are the URLs that are probably going to help you most with examples and documentation about the things we're talking about today. Next, please. TechCasts. This is obviously taking one of those slots, but we'd love to have abstracts from you for anything Oracle Analytics that we'd find interesting, anything that's on the edge. You'll see everything gets kept in the archive. Today's will be in the archive as well. But really, we've got a wealth of information and knowledge encapsulated in all of these TechCasts. So do go and look on the website at AnDOUC.org, and you'll be able to go and check back and see what's interesting for you. There's some quite clever things in there. Next, sir. So we've got merch. These are designed by our own Abby Giles Haig, and they're cut above the rest, unusual logos and things. So please support us with this. Next slide. Different ways to communicate with us. So obviously on the website, you'll find a lot of information about us. YouTube has a lot of, obviously, all our archives. And obviously, we have the standard social media. Probably my favorite is the Slack channel. It actually puts you in touch with Oracle's product management, as well as real experts in the field. To get your questions answered and to actually just to build community. So please do join us with those. Next. And this, very important, you can see some of this panel sitting up there. We have our summit, our in-person summit at the Oracle Conference Center in Redwood Shores. We'll be there from the April the 9th to the 11th. It is always different seeing people in the flesh. So this, obviously, the airways are good for communication, but seeing people face to face and having conversations about our technology and, in fact, just getting to know people it's a place to do that. So please do book block that out in your calendars and come and join us. Next. And I think we're off to the races. So with that, I'm going to steal the screen, Dan, and just share it very quickly. But I'm going to be talking my favorite. Let's just make sure I get the right one. This one. Okay, you should be looking at Dan at the moment. Is that a wonderful sight?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah, Roger, it looks a little small the way you have that. So consider that where you're going.
Okay, so I'm going to just try and make it bigger.
Yep.
Not too big. Is that okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm logged in here as, I can't really see my whole screen myself, I'm afraid. Let me just go back. So I'm logged in here as an admin. Just to show you, I'm Radical Rog. And I currently have the ability to do pretty much anything. I'm an administrator. Now, what we're talking about today is fine-grained permissions. So really, with that in mind, I'm just going to go and show you how that works. We've got, if I go to our console, I'm going to go to users and roles. I'm going to make it a bit bigger again. Users and roles, just as long as I can see what I'm doing. No, not quite. So here you'll see my users. The first tab that we see when we get in there is users. And you'll see I've got this user Cathye Pendley. No reference really intended. But if we look at Cathye Pendley, and I fully expect some sort of rebuke later, but he's just a DV consumer. Now, Cathye thinks he's really clever and would like more power and more the ability to do more instead of just consuming reports. He wants to start building stuff. I am slightly nervous about his capabilities, and I want to give him some more, but I want to do it safely. So I'm going to have a look at creating an application role with just the things that we want. So just before we go into that, obviously, if you look here, we've got all our application roles. If I go into something like DV content author, and I'm just going to have a look at the permissions that are available here, this encapsulates a number of the permissions that I want to include. So I'm interested in that, but I don't want to give Wayne the capability, Wacky Wayne. Oh, I keep on using the wrong name, don't I? I don't want to give him the capability to go and create new connections, to edit existing data flows, and to mess around with my sequences. So, but I'm quite happy for him to go and create and edit data sets and these other things. So that gives me an idea. By the way, when you look at these, you might find that some of these application roles actually have other application roles incorporated. The other thing you should be aware of is that if you really want to see, you need to do this. If you go to the show indirect members, this will show you everything that role actually can do. So these, if you notice, there's actually BI Service Administrator is also included. And that's by virtue of the group memberships that it has. So let me go back to my application roles. And very quickly, I'm going to create a new application role. So this is going to be called Creative Genius. And I can't type that out every time. I'm just going to put CGI, create. And at this stage, you'll see that this has appeared here. And I'm going to go to the permissions area. And at this stage, I could actually go to add permissions. And I could cherry pick the ones I wanted out of here, but I'm far too lazy for that. So instead, I'm going to click on the little 3 dots again and copy permissions from. And here I'm going to go down to that DV content author that we were looking at earlier, and I'm going to go copy. Now, at this stage, I get a warning that the earth will come to an end if something goes wrong, and I can't remove it and all the rest. You can actually delete these application roles if you need to. I know because I've done it. So at this stage now, you'll see permissions copied from DV content author. So let me just make it a little larger again for you. And at this stage, sorry, I can't actually get to where I need to without this. So now I can go and instead, oops, sorry, we'll get there. I can go and remove the items that I don't want Wacky Wayne to have. So, and one more. And you'll see now the only permissions he has are these. And so we've created our own CGI group. What I need to do next is just go to the users. And at this stage, I can add Wacky Wayne to this application role. And there we see him. Okay, so now just to prove the point, I'm going to log out of here. And I'm going to log in as Wacky Wayne. And here we are. If I go and now look at what he can create, let me just check that you can maybe see it a bit bigger. All he can do is the two things really that I've given him capability to. So that's an idea of fine-grained permissions. Just really when you're giving permissions, it sometimes could be sensible for you to actually group like permissions together in an application role and then make it members of the other application roles so that you can easily change it and create your own, if you like, system of being able to add and subtract that sort of capability. With that, I'm going to hand over to Wacky Wayne. Oh, sorry, Vince Sluys.
Roger, real quick before you do that, this is something I know our customers have wanted to be able to to fine-grain control what people can do rather than giving the full power of OAC. So I was kind of excited to see this go in as well. And it's one of the big headline features in this release. So we're looking forward to customers being able to fully roll this out.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a high degree of flexibility. I mean, as you'll see, you know, there's also new features. So you could, for instance, create an application role that just allows people to schedule report bursts.
Yeah.
Things like that, which it then allows you to flex without giving them full admin rights or full permissions, whereas you might have had to do that before.
Yeah.
All right, my turn. So I'm covering a couple topics. One of them is map additions. So some new formatting features that have been extended into the map visualization. I love maps. I've been working with map views in the OBIE world and now in the OAC world. So this view, when we get into the edit mode of maps, we can start to change some of the visualization properties. So inside the map, we have these styles that we can work with, whether we want the border, background, what color, how thick the line is on the border. And, excuse me, in terms of some of the titling and map pieces. So here we have the layer, we have the legend, we have the outlining, and then the data labels is one of the newer pieces that have come in. So I can center those, and then I can start to tell you which label I want on here. Do I want all of them, or do I want, you know, so that's the overlap on or off. especially when you have really large number of views in your, it's like here, the counties of Missouri. I don't want to have them overlapping. It would just get real muddy. But in terms of the regions, I do, and it makes more sense. It's easier to read. I don't have to kind of interpolate, though the brushing helps tell me what those labels would have been. Within the view itself, again, come on, get down there. The tooltip helps, but then also just even the data labels portion. So like the region name, I can also add on my sales and my quantity. Do I want them to overlap? Do I want them on multi-line? Which makes maybe a little cleaner to look at. So lots of neat new features coming into the map view, which is greatly appreciated. Makes it a lot easier to work with this visualization and be more effective in telling that data story. So,
Wayne, I have to ask, did you add that the ability to have the different regions within, looks like Missouri?
So this was part of my presentation at Kscope last year, where I was talking about using Spatial Studio to create custom regions. So that is me bouncing between two tools, OAC and Spatial Studio. So I imported the counties of Missouri into Spatial Studio, and then I used a spatial function to group a set of counties and create a custom region layer in Spatial Studio, and then extended that region back to OAC as a new map feature.
Cool. Okay, sorry. Just thought.
No, it's great. It's a good question. What it does is it makes it easy. I can drill now on a region. I can create hierarchies of my data geographically. So I can drill from here into the counties that related to the Central West or Central East or whatever.
Cool.
So map views, some great new features added to maps. Go play around with it. I think you'll like it. My next one, we don't need to save that, is on scheduling and bursting and new features added in for the ability to distribute your reports as well as scheduling the data flows. That data flow scheduling was available before, but what happened now is that with fine-grained permissions and with permissions, we're able to share that data flow schedule. But for the report and email scheduler, the workbook scheduler, these two features need to be turned on. So in the preview portion of the console system settings, you need to turn on the scheduler. And then if you want to do bursting, you can turn that on as well. As Roger was talking about this morning at the start, we have a little bit of demo gremlins. I could not get my SMTP to work and get that going. To do any scheduling, you do need to have your SMTP set up using a server, whether you're using the OCI server or an external. The setup for your SMTP within OCI is done within the developer services under application integration, email delivery. And then in configuration, you can set up your server endpoint and your authentication, and then your approved senders who can send emails out from through your server and services. And then, of course, in your user that's going to be sending the email, you need to generate SMTP credentials. That ID and password are what you embed here on the email setup. And I've got something missed because I cannot get the test to work. So, but it's something that is usable and doable. I just missed a setting. However, the setting and scheduling then would come in from the right click or the little ellipses on the workbook. You go to schedule, and there should be an icon button down here that says new schedule. And then you set the time and day and how frequent you'd like that to be run, and then who you're sending that report to. it will go out in a PDF or PNG file, which is a picture file. The other scheduling components, again, is in my data flow. I have a schedule, and I can share that schedule now through the permissions on the access. So I can give my BI or DV authors the ability to modify or just see the schedule. Full control means they can give permissions. Read write is that they can alter this and make a new schedule or add to the schedule. And then, of course, the frequency of when you want that to run. And maybe an end date or no repeat. So neat stuff. We've got great capabilities keep getting added to this product, and I get to thank Philippe for really advocating for us and adding the features that the community is being asking for. So with that, I'm turning it over to Philippe.
Hey, thank you very much, Wayne. I think this is these features you and Roger shown are of great value for our customers, and we're really happy that we finally got them in. So, hey, I thank you also for inviting me. I'm not sure, can you hear me fine?
Yep, no problem.
Hey, good morning, good evening, everyone. So I'm Philip from the Product Management in Oracle Analytics, and I'd like to spend the next 10-12 minutes to talk to you about some exciting features that were shipped as part of November. And you can see my screenshot here. You can see at the bottom, there's a short link to the playlist in YouTube, but I want to talk to you about two things. The OCI integration, OCI AI document understanding integration in Oracle Analytics. This is great, in my opinion. And also a word about an extension of text AI, which is about obfuscating data, right? So hopefully I will have time to go through all of this, but basically, if you're familiar with the AI and OCI integration that we are in on Oracle Analytics, these two features are actually what I'm highlighting right here. In OAC, your business users can easily run AI services.
Philippe,
Yes.
can you share your screen, please?
Can you?
You're sharing your screen?
Oh, am I not?
I don't think so.
I wasn't.
There you go.
No.
Yeah, with all the
Okay,
gremlins this morning, I thought it was me.
No, it is me. Okay, it's my turn. I apologize for this. Okay, so the playlist is here, and I was telling you I was going to talk to you about two of these things: document understanding and obfuscate personal information. And these are two parts of a bigger matrix where we integrate OCI AI, and your business users can consume easily very powerful services such as image, vision recognition, text analysis, and now document understanding, as well as some PI. So what is this, and why is it valuable as an addition to what we're doing with Oracle Analytics? AI language offers users with different models, and this is an analytics screenshot. So as a business user in Oracle Analytics, if I have text in my data, in my CSV data, or in my database data, or anywhere, I can run OCI AI that extracts key phrases or detects language or recognizes entity or obfuscates PII. And obfuscating PII means that in my text, before I give it to Dan, I will hide what I consider as sensitive. And then I can share it with Dan and others because it's appropriate. So this model is now available in OCI. It's available in OCI, but it's also available as a registerable model in OAC. Just as a brief recap, language detection with your text in OAC, OCI is capable of telling you what language it is part. Okay. Text classification, which was another model, with your text in OAC, it's capable of recognizing what you're talking about. Is it education? Is it arts? Is it society? And it gives you a hierarchy of classes that your text is talking about. Entity recognition is a model that will look at your text and tell you if it's talking about a person and which person that is, if it's talking about a quantity, a location, a product, and it will find what almost like topics, and you will get this as a result in your OAC table right there. And key phrase extraction is, the capability of looking what is the most important phrase in the text. That's really cool. And if I keep going on, sentiment analytics, and all of this is available, right? I'm just recapping what is there. Sentiment analytics is capable of recognizing if a word is negative, positive, neutral, if a sentence is negative, positive, or neutral, or if the whole text is a negative, positive, or neutral. And obfuscation is just hiding the text from the users. That's what we've recently added. Keep in mind that you can easily combine these models and take some text, extract entities and extract sentiments, and you can, out of nowhere, you can derive very powerful insights. I love the combination of capabilities that exist with language AI in OAC, and that's a very powerful combination. I'll be happy to talk more about this offline if you're interested. Meanwhile, let me jump in my second feature, which is the addition in November, document understanding. What is that? I have documents. I have passports, I have receipts, I have invoices, I have all sorts of documents, and I would like to recognize the text that is in this document so I can make analytics on it, right? So that's what OCI Document Understanding Service is all about. We have integrated this in OAC, and instead of showing you a slide, let me actually kick off a video if I am lucky that, okay. So let me play the role of a analyst, a finance analyst. And a finance analyst is doing some expense reports analysis. And I have some receipts from the system as well as expense report information. And these receipts are just images that employee attach to their expense reports. And I need to analyze their expense report and match it against the receipts that they have provided so I know that there is no mistake, right? And these are just plain and simple images. They could have been also PDF documents and so on. So of course, I can use the expense report information and do all sorts of analysis. This is very classic. I know that ER01 is so much and it has all of these components, and ER02 is so much, and all and on and on. But how can I match this against what is sitting in the documents that they have attached? Because that's what matters to me. So there is now the ability to register a document understanding model as part of OAC. So if you go into register new models, you will see that there is a document understanding type of model. And with this model, I can simply go and run a data flow. So now I'm still my role as a business user. And in my data flow, I'm going to invoke an AI model. So far, this is a node that we're using for many different things. And in this AI model, I will recognize, so many models I have registered on my environment here, but you can see that there is pre-trained document classification, pre-trained key value extraction, receipt key value extraction, which is one of the vanilla model that exists as part of OAC integration. So if I click on this now, if I click on this now, all I have to provide it is an input column. Input column should point to my images, all of these receipts that I showed you a moment ago. I have just uploaded them into a bucket, a folder in OCI Cloud. And you see the address at the bottom, cloud.oracle.com, object storage, blah, blah, blah. That's my bucket. That's where I have my 500 or 5,000 images sitting, waiting to be understood by the system. And I'm just going to point my data flow to this bucket. And that's it. Basically, that's as much as I need to provide it. And it's going to pass the information to OCI when I run it. And OCI will return a series of columns that you can see here. It knows we're talking about receipts because that's the model that is specific for receipts. And it knows that it's going to look for merchants, tax, subtotal, transaction date or time, tip, tax, you name it, all sorts of fields that we typically see in the receipts. And so I'm just going to keep them all. And of course, there are a level of details. Do I want to go down to the item level, or do I want the total of the receipt? I'm just going to go with a simple option here, asking for the total. I'm running this. This is just going to OCI. It's telling, please, OCI model, go to this bucket, analyze the documents, return data to me in OAC. And what you see now, I have a new data set called extracted receipt field, which is the result of my data flow. What I have in there is really cool. It's all the data that was extracted from my images, from my documents in this case, and they were of format, different formats. Could have been, like I said, PDF, PNG, PDF, JPEGs, and so on. So now I have the scan, I have the X-ray of all my documents. I know which document, I know what information, and I can match this against my other analysis. So if I do match this, you see I have on the left here my initial reported expenses, which I started with, and I've joined it with my extracted results. I joined it using the file number, which you remember we were, or the ER ID, which was part of the file number. Very simple. So now I know for ER02 what was the reported total and what I found extracting it from the document. And if I keep going on a little further, I can measure a variance. So this one here is a row that has quite some variance. $87 were reported, but really on the receipt, I read $37. So there is a mistake. So I need to correct that. And if I keep going on, if I scroll on a little further, here's another one, $192 reported, but the receipt only shows $182.51. So because of that document understanding model, I was able to extract information from my receipt. I can go on with other information such as merchant name and have analysis of my expenses by merchant name, which is totally impossible for me to have in other ways. It's like lots of valuable business use case that can be covered with this. And this is available to you. If you have any documents such as expense reports, for instance, or passports or driver licenses, try it because it's cheap, it's simple, and you can make magic insight out of this in minutes. Behind the scenes, things are going back. Nothing is happening in OAC here. This is OAC invoking OCI. They're reading the data that is in OCI, the bucket where I stored my images, and sending back the information to OAC. But the beauty is that that information is tabular and it's ready for me to analyze. So for me as a business user, I don't have to worry about what's going on behind the scenes. I don't have to worry about parsing that information. It's all there, ready for me to analyze and make sense of. It's very powerful in my opinion. Hopefully you see some value here about what this is bringing to your business people, which is enabling them with powerful AI without having to learn the technicalities behind it, without having to learn how to use it, without having to learn any coding language to apply this. This is friendly and fun. Dan, if you're okay, I can take maybe another minute to talk about a little surprise because we're close from Christmas. So instead of talking to you only about the feature that I love from the November release, I also want to give you a quick sneak peek on some stuff that's coming in January. How about this?
Roger, up to you. You want to do this now or at the end?
You tell me.
Why don't we do this at the end, Philippe? Because I want to make it clear what's live versus what's coming up, and I'd rather give you a shot. At the end.
Absolutely.
To show the new stuff, so we're clear. Okay.
Sure.
One of the things we like to do in this webcast is make sure that we're clear about what we're showing is live production software. You see us kind of showing you instances that we all have. And like to go through these. We do these every 2 months or so when the new release, and it's like every release is like kids at the candy store. New stuff we get to play with, so it's always fun to see the new stuff on here. But I'm also going to share with you a little bit of stuff I'm working on in the background. One of the things that we have now is if you haven't started going towards using dashboard filters and using the parameters capability, take a look at it. You should be able to do a lot of the things that you could do with the classic interface. You can now do with the newer interface, just about everything you need to do. I'm going to go through some things with parameters. We've covered that in previous TechCasts as those were enhanced and built in, but I want to show you one of the things is some binding that goes on. By the way, in this instance, I'm using a new control called a dashboard filter, which is down here under dashboard controls, dashboard filter, and I'm using actually a couple different variants of this, trying some things out in my development environment. But I've got something called analysis year mo, and I'm playing around with it, and I'll show you what's new in this release. I now have the ability with this to do a simple drop down, or when you come in here, you can control what exact type of drop down this is now. So in here, this is what I have as a filter box, a list box. You can control and make this a regular list, a list box, top, bottom, end, or slider. And when you make it a list box, you can then have the ability to now, what's new is to bind this selection of T0 tier name month. That's one of my database fields that I can do in here. Okay, and I have now bound that to a parameter called analysis year mo. And in here and in my list of parameters, I have analysis year mo. And if I edit that parameter, I can see here are the available values in there. And in previous releases, you had to specify the individual values. Now you can actually pull them from the database. All that can be bound together, so you don't have to do things as manually as you had to do. And that way, when I then change this selection, it'll change what data is being displayed for those parts of this that I have configured to listen to this control. And so I can control a lot of these. This one isn't set up that way, so that's why it didn't appear. Anyway, this is one of the things, is this ability to bind these parameters together. There's more things in there that I don't have time to show in here. The other thing I wanted to show you was the LISTAGG feature. And rather than trying to show this live so I can get through this quickly, I'm going to show you from a demo that comes from Oracle. By the way, this is the stuff that we use to learn about these new features. Oracle Product Management puts together this wonderful set of videos. You can see they're only 3 minutes long, a minute long, 5 minutes long, about all these features when they come out with new features each release. That's on their YouTube channel under Oracle Analytics. So that's where I learned about this. And I'm going to just take a couple screenshots from that and show you what that looks like. They were using this to take this position, whether this in a race, whether it's first, second, or third, and so forth, using the new function of list aggregate that you can do in a data flow. And in that list aggregate feature, we can then end up doing something where when you select the function list aggregate, you can get the race winners 1, 2, and 3, and eventually end up with this as a comma separated list. So then you can get race winners 1, 2, 3, Max, Verstappen, Hamilton, and Sainz appear. Now, what I wanted to do was put this all together so I could show what I think of as a more realistic example of what products are sold to a given customer as a comma separated list, or what geographic areas are handled by this person. And the ability to aggregate a lower level data up to a higher level data is what I think is especially helpful now, the ability to aggregate, in effect, what is textual data in there. So that's one of the things I wanted to do. And those are the two features that I was most excited to see. Cathye, I'll offer, if you want me to show a little bit on the formatting, I can show that using this, or let you go through this. Your choice.
As long as my voice holds out, I'm more than happy to do that. If you think I sound bad, Dan, you feel more free to take it over. It doesn't
matter.
matter.
Let me take this, say, do the voice of this on sales, and I'll let you take out the rest of it. So now in sales, you can see I have this as 3,000 in here. I also have the ability to come in and in the formatting of this in the format control for sales, sometimes you want to abbreviate this. In previous releases, if you turn on the abbreviation, now it'll do Ks in some cases and not Ks, depending on whether it is over 1,000. What we have now the ability to do is to specify, and my data doesn't bear this out completely as well, but you can see now I can force it to always abbreviate as a K. This is one of the things that's new, is the ability. We also have the ability to specify red formatting for negative in parentheses, that type of thing. So let me do that, and then I'll turn it over to you for anything else that you can show, Cathye. Go ahead and steal the share from me.
That sounds good. Dan, you kind of showed my numbers, but what I'll do is I'll just show what I've already had done on that. And I'm sorry, I only have one screen right now, so just bear with me. So can everybody see my screen here?
Yep, we can see it.
So what I have here is, like Dan said, you can see over here that I have created, I'm sorry, let's go to solutions here. I have a solutions tab. You can see that I went through and already did, like Dan had showed you, we could format the numbers. And I have some formatted that are just showing red, and some that are showing brackets in red, and some that are just showing brackets. So that's some things that you can do now, and you can do it based on measure, like Dan had showed. You also, I did all of my population. I did in millions, so you can see the 314 million. Again, Dan has showed you all of this. What else we have is the other thing that I was going to show, and I'll just go ahead and do a quick demo of that, is I have here the line graphs. We now have, you can format your line graphs. You can either format all the lines, or you can do things to them specifically. If, for example, if I wanted, right now I have solid line graphs here. If I wanted, I could make them dashed or dotted, and I can change the width on them if I wanted to. That you can do for all your graphs. But you can also do it just for an individual graph. So for example, here I was just doing something fun. I'm big into Christmas, and you're supposed to be able to see my Santa workshop behind me, but I'm not able to go on video today. So, but this is, I was just kind of comparing how much and this is average number of gifts that you get for coworkers and friends. And I was wondering, since COVID hasn't gone down, so I was really more concerned with coworkers, and you can see it's gone down. So I want to focus on coworkers versus friends here. What I might do is I might click on, let's see, make sure I've got, open this up. Oops, sorry. Bear with me. Go ahead and click on, make sure I got the right line clicked on. Friends with difference. I'm going to make this one a transparency. I have gifts for friends from prior period versus gifts for coworkers, difference from prior period. I don't want to focus on the friends. I want to make them lighter. So I'm going to put a 90% transparency here. And you can see that line goes really light. You can make it 70, 80, and you can do that you can do that based on each line. You can format each line. And then another thing you can do, you can also do the data format on the labels, very similar to what you do on the tables. You can format the data to say, okay, data levels, I want them above. And then I'm going to make this a number format. And then the negative values, how do I want to make the negative values? You can see I can do the same thing here, and you can see how that changes. So you can do this on your graphs as well as on your tables. And that was the main things I was going to show. Just know that there are ways that you can format and create other labels. There's also some different labels. If you use a lot of tree maps, there's some where you can show the different labels on those as well. I won't go into that today, but just know that that is something you can do, and definitely look at it. There's good videos out there. Take that link. I think somebody put it in the chat. Take the link and try some of those videos. That's how we all learn. And that's all I have. And I'll turn it back over to Philippe, and you can go ahead and tell us some of the new things that are coming up in the near future.
Thanks very much, Cathye. So, Philippe, can we revert to you? I think we've got no more questions at this stage, so maybe we can go back to that new and upcoming surprise that you had for us.
Sure, absolutely. So, did you want to talk about a specific question before I go on?
I think there was a question about barcodes.
Yeah.
There was something where somebody had asked about
Yeah.
He
the
responded in the
stuff.
It's been answered in chat, so in the Q&A. So
yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, I don't know the exact answer, but I would be surprised that OCI AI would not support that type of training, that type of modeling. It's just not part of a default vanilla one. But so I will investigate with the OCI AI product management team if they support this, and it should be now. It should be possible in OCI, and just to be comprehensive, we are working on supporting custom document understanding. So what I showed you is supporting, so OAC, excuse me, supporting or ingesting results of vanilla document understanding models that exist in OCI. That is receipts, passport, driver licenses, and stuff like this. How OAC consume results of custom document understanding is something we're still working on. That should come hopefully within the next few months. So we're still not ready with this. And once a barcode model may exist in OCI in a custom format, we will soon be able to integrate it in OAC. So it's a long story to say we're not ready yet.
Okay.
I think.
Go on with other stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I just so I felt like I would just show a few things that get me excited about what's going to happen in 2 or 3 weeks, which is the January release. But I appreciate that in this call, we're typically talking about what exists. So I don't mean to disrupt the tradition. So just let me disclaim on the fact that I'm just going to scratch the surface on what will be as part of OAC in 2 weeks. And I'll just show, I don't know, I would say 10% of some of the new stuff coming. So don't think this is all of it. But few things adding to what Cathye showed and also Dan showed, some visualization capabilities where if you're using a stacked bar with negative values, or a negative values will appear as negative in the stacked bar, and so will it in the 100% stack bar, which is not the case today. So this is probably a bug fix if you wish, but this is 100% of the value, except that some of it is negative, right? And some of it is positive. So this is a specific representation of the stacked bar chart. That's one example. Another example that I think is really cool is if I go with a scatter plot, you're familiar probably with reference lines, which we can add on not only on scatter plots, but on other visits. The January release will add a lot more control over the line itself, like coloring, the layout, where is it in front or in background, the transparency, this just like you discussed, Cathye, but in this case, it is in the reference line. So as an example, I can easily build a band with a, let me make it this way, a color and some transparency showing me the sigma 1 sigma distance, or is it 3? Yeah, 1 sigma distance of the average. And I can pile up now more and more of these. Now the other one here is on the y-axis, and let me make it blue, and let me give it a sigma distance as well, and let me make it 70%. So I'm building visualization that I can customize, and the color is in the form, the whole formatting of the whole thing is appearing as a more controllable in the viz itself. That's a lot sexier than it used to be, and of course everything else applies, like the size of the dots. You can control this, make it a lot smaller, and adjust the size and so on. And just to wrap up a few more things, that's a table or a pivot table with conditional formatting. But conditional formatting has been extended with the ability to add icons or emoticons or emojis, right? So in the conditional formatting dialog, we call it decorations. So you will hear that feature as being decorations, and you'll see certainly a nice video about this coming in a few weeks, which is ability to use standard or different emojis of different kinds for reacting to conditional formatting. So this is really cool. And one last thing I want to just point out to, in data flows, there is also some new things, such as, for instance, in the union node, if you've been using that node, you've been using unioning data sets based on the same column order in the data set. But that's not always the case, and you may want to use it based on the column name. So my two data sets have a different sequence of column, but they match, even though they're not in the same sequence, but they have the same name. So I can now run that in the data flow based on column name. So there are lots of new things like this that you will see in January. I'm sure some of you can already project in different use cases. But again, I'll stop here. This is some preview of the January stuff.
That's superb. Thank you very much for that. So really interesting. So I really think that, I'm thinking of an ESG model or balanced scorecard model with icon signals is going to be really useful. We have one question here from Gerald Dildine. Does pivot table support heat map?
Yes.
Okay.
So coloring. So there is even a visualization for this, but the answer is yes. I'm trying to see if I can show it on the slide, but yes. Yeah. Go ahead. You're saying something else? That's
it. No, the other one is Tim Vlamis was saying, "Yippee! You can format reference lines finally. Thank you." So
yes.
Anyway,
absolutely.
Well, I just at this stage, I mean, unless you've got something you want to whack up on the screen, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining in. For Victorious Vlamis, for Firehose Philippe, for Wacky Wayne, and Creative Cathye.
And we have our poll. We have the poll. We have the poll.
Sorry,
Gary, do we have the poll?
There we got the poll. That's it. Yeah. Let's do that. So if I'm not allowed to vote. What is your favorite feature? If you could let us know, we'd love to know what you think. And obviously, product management's always interested in this too.
We like to engage kind of the audience. One of the reasons for the poll is we like to engage the audience to see what we should be focusing on, and this will also help us know what does our audience especially interested in. Some of these, by the way, may show up in the sessions for Analytics and Data Summit 2024. This type of thing where we do sessions on specifically some of these types of features. So come join us.
Document understanding.
Go for it.
Fine grain was next. Nice.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, cool.
All right. I think there's one more question from anonymous attendee. Is there any limitation on scatter plots, plot dots that can be set or managed?
In DV, I mean in self-service as opposed to classic, right? So yes, there is a limitation. There are two different limitations. One for the number of the records that can be returned by the BI, the OA server, and another limit is how many points can be shown on a scatter plot. I think it's about 10,000. On a map, it's 125,000. But for a scatter plot, I think it's about 10,000. So if you have more than 10,000, in the OAS, you can control this. So in the server, in the on-prem version, but in OAC in the cloud, I don't know that there is a way for the user to increase that limit. I think we're working. This is a feature that is on the roadmap to give control about to the users about some of these limits.
I mean, by the time you get to that scale, it's getting hard to analyze anyway. But brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Anybody got anything else to say?
Roger just put up the and I'm sorry, no, that's me.
You put up the summit.
I'll put up the slide about that. All right, here we go.
So, but thank you everybody for joining today, and thank you in spite of the technical challenges of getting actually onto this TechCast in the first place. Really appreciate everybody's contribution today, and I hope that was really interesting for everybody. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them to any of us on the panel, and we'll make sure that we get an answer from probably from Firehose Philippe. Anyway.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on that call. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Look forward to
guys.
seeing you in April. Okay.
Same here. Bye.
Bye-bye.